Well, it's a pretty good lunchtime if you're in the England camp. India did get the job done early on the fourth morning of getting the last two England wickets. But after that, you see their top three back in the hut at lunch. So let's see where Ajit Agarkar and Nick Compton think this game is headed. It's ESPN Cricinfo Matchday's lunchtime show. It's a happy time if you're an England player to knock the top three in reasonably good time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing you would want defending any total, to try and knock the openers off, which they did. Again, the two senior guys stood up, Broad and Anderson, making those breakthroughs, which...
Looking any different, or is it just a very, very testing spell?
I mean, you're still bowling with a new ball, which is going to do something. There will be some variable bounce. Both came really hard. Both were consistent with their lines, lengths, and very aggressive from ball one. Rahul got a tough one to keep out, but again, very poor from Shikhar Dhawan. And Pujara a little bit unlucky going on umpire's call, but good piece of bowling. Bringing the ball back into Pujara can always reward you if it misses.
Let's talk about both those wickets for the openers. Nick Compton, I don't know if you've ever gotten one of those playing in all your time in England. Those stinkers that comes in day 4, you just can't, nothing you can do about it. And of course, Ajit says Shikhar Dhawan, very poor shot in the circumstances. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think when things aren't going with you, as they probably haven't gone for Rahul, it's a big innings for Rahul, hoping that he could come out there and bring some life to this Indian batting attack. He's only averaging 16 in the series, and I think when you're averaging 16 and things haven't quite gone your way, you need some luck, but he didn't get it today. I think when it rains, it tends to pour. One of the things that I thought was interesting was the use of the light roller from Virat Kohli. You could argue that come the last day, you want to try and deaden the wicket as much as you can. Maybe the heavy roller may have had an impact on slowing the wicket down even more, because as we've spoken about, the wicket has got a bit slower. So, perhaps that was a missed opportunity there to give themselves the best chance in the last day. But, gee, it could have been 4 wickets, couldn't it? I mean, I think we should liven things up in the studio. Was that out or not?
Okay, let's go into it since you've asked the question. I think third ball of the 17th over. Kumar Dharmasena, the umpire, Virat Kohli, the batsman, Moeen Ali, the bowler. And on replays and whatever evidence we see, there seems to be some doubt on whether that ball actually took Kohli's inside edge on its way to his pad. From what you've seen, and there's also a point, of course, where the bottom of the bat hit Kohli's pads. There's all sorts of, optical illusions. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I'm not sure he nicked it. I mean, he didn't look confident when England appealed or took the review. He felt he was outside off stump, Virat himself. So, sometimes the batsman, you can see the body language, and if he nicked it. So, I'm not quite sure. You don't quite know. There were those things on the snicko.
Yeah.
But the bats definitely hit the pad at the exact same time that the balls passed his inside edge. I think he's a lucky man.
Yeah, I mean, at least we didn't get pictures of the actual ball tracker to confirm that it was 3 reds after, assuming that was the case.
Yeah, that's the other thing, of course.
Yeah, it never progressed. It took its logical conclusion. Tell me what you thought of it, Nick. To my eye, it seemed like when you slow it down, there seems to be some sort of deviation, but is that just optical illusion? When you see it in continuity, you feel like, no, it's come through the bat.
I think it's your Indian optical illusion.
Well done, thank you. I thought so.
I definitely think that the third umpire's had a bit of a shocker there. I mean, he's taken a short amount of time to make that decision. Didn't even talk about the bat hitting the pad. For me, that was definitely a decision that should have been looked at more in depth. And I think Kohli's got away with one. You look at the replay of the players, and when you're out there in the middle as players, and you could see the anguish and the almost some of the smiling that went on, because they knew deep down. I think Kohli knew deep down that he's got away with one. But you know what? That's a bit of luck you need. I think this innings now hangs on his shoulders. There's no doubt about it. That was the game for me. Game over if Kohli was out. They still have a chance.
Joel Wilson, the TV umpire from Trinidad, of all the umpires we've had in this series, just 10 tests that he's officiated in, but it's another dilemma when you end up sitting in the third umpire's chair with reviews ongoing. But
that's the thing. I mean, the quickness, like Nick says, if you felt there was a little bit of a nick there, I think he could have taken a couple more views. Maybe it would not have changed the decision, but I thought it was really quick, the decision that he made, because the bats hit the pad at the exact same time. And the more you see, the more you feel that he's got away with one.
Okay, Shikhar Dhawan's wicket. There are things about Shikhar Dhawan that you like as a batsman, but then in situations he just frustrates you.
No, I mean that's the way he plays, and that's the way he's continued playing, and that's the way he's kept playing Test cricket when India tour overseas. I think his record's pretty poor every time he's played overseas. So, yeah, I mean I can't remember the last time Shikhar Dhawan scored big runs away from India.
Yeah, or away from the subcontinent.
Yeah, away from the subcontinent. India is.
He loves going to Sri Lanka.
Yeah,
he'll go any
you don't count West Indies or Sri Lanka anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, it just puts so much pressure on the middle order. But India keep persisting with him. I think they'll have to have a look. I know he scores runs when he's there, gives them a bit of a start, but there are clear flaws which again have been exposed when he's played away.
This is right up Nick Compton's alley. He loves the clear flaws to be explained technically, so I'll let him do the reducing of Shikhar Dhawan's technique. We see at times, even when he plays and misses, Nick, the angle is almost towards the slips and third man, almost a limited over sort of instinct that he has. Just observations on Shikhar Dhawan?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's difficult when you get batsmen coming to England. Let's be honest, opening the batting in England is very, very tough. So we have to sort of have one eye on that. But I think watching Shikhar through the series, he has made an effort to try and change things slightly. I think he has played better. I think his technique has got a little bit better. He's played the ball later. We noticed when they did a preview on the TV, they looked at how he's sort of gone a bit deeper, played the ball later, whereas when he first started in the first test match, he was going at the ball, trying to get to it. Now he's letting the ball travel a bit more. So he has got a bit better technically, I think. He's not a technician. I think that's why he excels when the ball doesn't bounce. But I think when the ball does bounce, likes of Australia, South Africa, and of course England, when the ball's nipping around, he does get into a bit of trouble. And I think, again, he's kind of got squared up a bit. He's not one of those players that you can expect to be a Pujara or someone like that. So he kind of has to ride his luck a bit, and it's a shame because if he does get in, he's an exciting player to watch.
Well, that's the exact thing. I mean, like Nick said, he'll never be a technician, but he's played in this country, he's played in Australia, he's played in South Africa on more than a few occasions now. So you'd expect the guy to. And like Nick said, it's been very, very difficult for openers from both sides.
Yes.
This series, in particular, the bowlers from both teams have bowled really well. But you expect an experienced guy to find a way, and throughout the series, unfortunately, he hasn't again.
What about the Pujara wicket, Nick? We knew it would be hard for him to replicate the heroics of the first innings. But for a batsman who bats 3 for India, he does get out bowled in LBW quite often. The ball that coming in, just his downfall. Anything that you've noticed on his technique?
Yeah, I think he's changed a little bit, let's be honest. Again, looking at how he's come on in this series, a guy who didn't play the first test match, spent some time playing for Yorkshire, going through the difficulties of early season form in county cricket. So he's spent the time, he's learnt his trade a lot more. He's a guy that wants to continue learning. So I've been impressed by, his first innings was phenomenal. It was always going to be a challenge to back that up. Not many players get 200s in a row or manage to get runs in the second inning. So it was going to be a challenge for him, particularly with the wicket staying a little bit low. He is vulnerable to the ball coming back, a little bit like Rahul. He's better technically, but I think just every now and then, when the ball does come back, he does get bowled in LBW a few too many times. It's hard to be critical of him. It's just a shame for India. I think if they could have had an hour of him batting, Kohli getting himself more in, and then Rahane coming in off the back of that would have helped India a lot. So it's a real shame for India that he couldn't stick around a bit longer.
Good ball to Pujara though?
Yeah, I think Anderson was in the middle of a really good spell. Just probing all the time. And even though he's susceptible to ball coming in, it was still a good ball. I don't think, like Nick said, he's done too much wrong there. It's one of those balls which he's just missed. And maybe a couple of inches higher and he might have gotten away with it. So, no, you can see the clear improvement in him in this series itself after that Lord's Test, and those conditions are tough to bat in. You can see the improvement, and that scores in Nottingham and first innings here tells you what a difference it's made.
Yeah, you called it on the pre-show that Anderson Broad, especially Broad, might have an impact on this sort of pitch. just at the height, and what does it do to on a pitch like this?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's that tall,
Yeah.
generally any kind of variable bounce, whether it's it keeps low or it bounces a little bit extra, is going to get that much more advantage out of it. I thought Anderson was really impressive. Just put in, I think, bowled a shorter spell than he has throughout the series. 5 or 6 overs this spell, but gave it his all. I mean, tells you why he's got 559 wickets now. There's a reason why he's done that. And the ball did move around a little bit, but it wasn't like what we've had in some of the other tests, and still found ways to get good batsmen out.
I mean, just confirming, going back to the Kohli review incident, that it was 3 reds if it would have carried on. So yes, that was, you could consider that a bit of a reprieve now that I've just got information that let's leave that point out. Let's go back to the use of England's bowlers. As good as Anderson and Rod were, Ben Stokes, very probing 2 overs, but I mean then taken off. So is it about Joe Root using him very economically given this chase?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ben's that type of guy, isn't he? Even on one leg, he can come in on 2 overs and get you a quick wicket, and then suddenly you get Broad and Anderson back on. I think he's used Anderson well. I think he's getting a bit older, as we know, so you don't really want to bowl him long spells. When you are trying to defend a total, they know that keeping the bowlers fresh and making sure that when they come on, they've got maximum impact. And I think given Stokes' injury at the moment, he can kind of be used sparingly. They've got Mo and Ali on a helpful pitch who'll, most predominantly bowl quite a lot in this next spell, in this next session. So I think it's a good opportunity for Joe Root to really make sure that his bowlers are fresh, and when they come on, to have maximum impact. And I think Stokes gives you that at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, and he's got Rahane a few times, and that could be one of the reasons he's come in to bowl ahead of Sam Curran as well, and maybe after a couple of overs he's sort of taken him off 2 or 3 overs. So thinking back, Rahane is coming in there might be a bigger reason to get Stokes on straight away.
If you from what you've seen of Moeen Ali's 4 overs in that session, what's the field you'd set for him? Would you get a few more guys around?
Yeah, I think as soon as he got silly point, Virat Kohli played a bit differently. That's when he got hit on the pads. I think Joe Root's got it spot on. Even with Rahane, who sort of lunges a lot more forward and plays a bit differently or defends a bit differently to Virat, he's got the backward short leg. So no, I don't think he's put a foot wrong this afternoon. Getting wickets helps as well.
Yeah, of course it does. Nick, use of Joe Root's bowlers as we start this session now. Everyone seems to be doing such a good job. Sometimes you don't know who to bowl. Will we see Adil Rashid anytime soon, or that's going to take a while?
I think that might take a while. You haven't got a huge amount of runs to play with, and I guess with a leg spinner, he might be worried that he might give away too many runs, get Virat Kohli onto 30 or 40, and then suddenly it's going to be hard work. I think at the moment the wicket is a bit up and down. You've got 2 fast bowlers with huge amount of experience who've had a nice lunch, had a chance to sort of put their feet up. You have a feeling that they're going to come hard again, try and attack that off stump, see if they can get a bit of variable bounce, and of course as soon as their spell's done, Mo and Ali will come straight on. I think we may see Adil Rashid, but a lot depends on this partnership. If this partnership gets going, then Adil may have to come on later, and that's where I think India can potentially try and really get on top of him and get some runs, because it's going to be hard to score runs. Even if Anderson's not taking wickets, he's not going to go for many runs. So they've got to find a way of actually putting pressure back onto England.
What are the adjustments you'd want to make as a batsman when this wicket is up and down, the way you mentioned?
Well, I think the key thing is to make sure that when you're going forward, you're right forward, and when you're going back, you're right on your stumps. I think bringing in that silly mid-off, you could see that Virat Kohli and that dismissal where, it could have gone either way. He's probably gone back there and not been as confident in his defence. I think when it is turning, you've got to get right forward and right back. Even though Moeen is turning it, that's the only way. And Virat Kohli is normally very good at that. Just make sure that you don't get stuck in the crease. Once you get stuck in the crease, it becomes a lottery. The men crowd around you. You start to feel really under pressure. So they've still got to keep that balance of trying to rotate the strike, making sure that when he goes a bit fuller and gets above your eye line, that you're down the wicket, you're hitting with the spin towards the onside. And when it is short, perhaps manipulating the ball to point where there's a deep man so you can get off strike. And that's important. You've got to keep the scoreboard ticking. Make sure Mo and Ali isn't bowling maidens after maidens.
Yeah, I think that we saw with Rahane. It wasn't like he was bogged down. If the odd loose ball came, he was willing to play a shot.
Yeah, I mean that's the only way you're going to try and get closer to the score or win this game is to score runs. There are going to be enough balls which are going to spin out of that rough or bounce. Hopefully the batters are good enough to keep them out. Have a little bit of luck. Yeah, it's going to be a hard grind this next couple of hours. But if these two can stay together, I think India will start feeling a lot more comfortable and confident.
This partnership key, yes, but if a wicket does fall, who comes in next for you?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Pant,
I suppose you'll stick with Pant. I know he's got a couple of ducks in his last two innings, and a 29-ball duck in the previous one. But I think if you've invested in him, then you've got to give him that opportunity again. I think tinkering with that order at the moment might not be the wisest thing to do. Plus, he's a left-hander.
Would be fun for Pant to come down and do a swashbuckling counter-attack, that kind of thing. Will the pitch allow for it?
I think it's too early to talk about those things. I think
this partnership, Kohli Rahane, let's focus on the immediate nature. Fine. And little things like a review, they lose a review even for that non-dismissal, like Nick says. Could very well come down to that kind of day where an umpiring call might be talked about.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. I like Nick said, I wish the umpire had taken a little bit more time, even if he'd made the same decision. I thought it was a bit hasty.
Very well. Thank you, Ajit Agarkar, Nick Compton. This game on a knife edge, courtesy only the partnership of Ajinkya Rahane, Virat Kohli. If this goes quickly, then who knows? We might have a quick session. Otherwise, we should have a great tea time chat. Join us for it on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. Download the mobile app, clips, highlights of this intense day as they happen on this site.